Hello and welcome to Rauta 5. Once again we have 5 different albums, 5 different styles, and you might know the story if you've been following the previous Indie 5 videos. So in alphabetical order we go, and I am describing each band and album swiftly, briefly, and so that you get an idea whether or not this is worth your time to check out the music. So let's do it. First we go to France with the band called Cepheide, and this is Échappées. Second album by the band, should my memory serve me correctly, and unfortunately this is nowhere near where the band used to be previously. Since those days the lineup has changed and could indeed have affected how the music is being composed. Now I had actually had to read my own previous review to kind of remind me, did the band actually was this kind of mediocrity and pointless like this album seems to be, and my own review kind of brought me up in memories like, yes, the first album was actually good, it was solid black metal and things were rolling in a nice way, and even though the elements are roughly the same, this is black metal meeting post metal, one could say post black in a way, these are almost like in how to say, inverted order. It's almost like this second album should have come out first, because this is more like roughly the same territory, but now lacking the good songs. So without having to recap the first album, this is a fast-paced black metal with some kind of melodic outputs and once again having those post-metal things. And where that by per se is not exactly a bad idea, the thing here is this album lacks catchiness, memorability, good riffs, good melodies and all that stuff. But does it mean that the album is full of shite? No. In fact, this is kind of listenable, but also very, very forgettable. And everything here seems like it's a work in progress kind of a thing. One could say, yeah, it's a demo level material in so many ways, except maybe for the production values and all that stuff. But everything here is something like so much worse than the second album is so much worse than the first album. I'm already losing my words here. And I think people who are interested in this particular band should check out the first album first. That might give you a wrong idea what the second album is all about, but roughly they are made of the same material, but just in a way that the first album actually is good, makes sense, and it's something like, wow, you should have some kind of a level of expectations for the second album. Whereas here, everything is like, where did you lose your talent to do the music? It did actually mean that changing the lineup actually meant that now everything is just meaningless, worthless, and mediocrity. So, if you have a soft tooth, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, for a fast-paced black metal coming from France, this is worth checking out, but otherwise, give it a skip. Then we have this band from Australia, Frostskadet, The Moon's Reflection, the first album by this solo project. And by the way, it seems like the Cepheide is also nowadays solo project. I couldn't get up-to-date information about it, much like these kind of solo projects, you rarely seem to have it, but here it is. While this album comes from Australia, everything is pointing to Nordic territory. That is, whether it's about this musical style or lyric themes. Well, can't really comment the lyrics more in depth, but let's put it this way. If you like take a look at the song names like Spell of Frost or some of these Leaves of Freezing Wind, or like my favorite one would be Hunted in the Falling Snow. Everything sounds so Nordic in the themes of this is like going back to 1990s Norway, Sweden, and etc. Thing here is, this is basically trying to do that kind of stuff as well musically. And while there's nothing wrong with that, the songwriting isn't too shabby. There are moments when everything is like, okay, now it's going to click, now it's going to win me over for the music, and then comes another filler riff or mediocre part where you just kind of lose your hope, only to get invoked that again later on. My point here is, unlike Cepheide, this is more like ups and downs. There are moments when it really feels it's going to click and be good, and then there are moments when it's just like, okay, that's hope lost. Everything here is much like Cepheide, work in progress thing. I mean, I kind of get this Nordic black metal feeling what this is trying to do, but you know, it's not all about songwriting. It's not about production values and, you know, sound in general, or those rather weak, raspy vocals, which should have been replaced by someone more majestic voice, someone more aggressive, or just someone who is more passionate about doing the vocals rather than just, let's do the last part. I'm already done with the project, but I still have to include some of the vocals. These are more like the kind of original sins for a solo project. When you are supposed to handle everything by yourself, eventually you will lose the ball. You will drop it on the floor and say like, okay, I'm done with it. The last part, I'm just gonna do it really quickly and swiftly because I don't have the energy or passion or skill to do everything. So sometimes some riffs are good, but the bass suck, or then the drums are not that good, or then it's the vocals. Each solo project, pretty much, give or take, has the same problem. Some have it more, some little. Frostskadet is more like medium amount of problems in that sector. Basically, going in the right direction, but in as an album, too much demo thing on the play. Then we have another solo project, so third one in the line, and this one is from Basque country, Spain. This is Lifelost with Punitive, Damnation. And I feel like I'm repeating here myself once again, but this kind of a solo project also has the same kind of a basic set of problems that those two bands previously explained. Now, if you're seeing a pattern here, or more like hearing a pattern here, it's for a reason. Once again, one guy trying to handle too much and failing at some parts of it. This is also black metal and trying to tackle problems with having dissonant parts, fast tempo, and just trying to get away with it. Now, the production could be a lot better. Once again, the vocals are somewhat weak, much like the previous band Frostskadet, but the style is different. Where those were more like, those as songs were more like very Nordic style in terms of Norway and Sweden and all that stuff. This is something different. Not exactly something that I can put my finger on it. Kinda those dissonant parts remind me of third wave Icelandic bands, which have their own signature style and sound and all that stuff. But this is not exactly that. But however, this is like a little bit all over the place in terms of songwriting, as well as when it comes to the vocals and production. Everything here is more like, yes, you're doing a demo in full-length album material in so many ways. Not exactly bad, but much like Cepheide and Frostskadet, this is very much work in progress. Yes, I'm repeating here myself and I can't help it. I wish this portion of Indie 5 was way different. But it seems like I'm getting too many of these albums when one guy just wants us to handle everything and is unable to do it in a way that it's like good. I mean, there are plenty of good solo projects in the world, but not everybody can be the next Vari Vikernes or Burzum or Sielun Vihollinen, or I don't know. There are lots of examples of solo projects which are good, and way too many examples where they're just one of those mediocrity bulk material and all that stuff. Once again, if you think this is your cup of tea, check out the links and don't bitch to me like, you don't just understand this kind of music. No, I don't fucking care about it. Okay, let's move to death metal territory, and this one is Mortar from Finland, Trouble in a Rotten World EP, self-financed one. Now, there are plenty of bands called Mortar in the world, and this one is, as far as I could tell, the newest one listed on Metal Archives. So yes, they have picked a name that is already been in use by like a dozen of different bands. These guys play death metal with a little bit of a grind in the game. So once again, kind of old school death metal, but with a little bit of a grind tasting or seasoning into it. Now this starts nicely, and one of the first things I paid attention to is this rather nice guitar sound, but it can save only that much. Eventually, this EP of sorts, less than 30 minutes in total, becomes kind of a boring one. I mean, you have some cool riffs here and there where you're kind of like, okay, I'm ready to headbang and all that stuff, and you're looking for the good song to appear and all that stuff, but then you just kind of wear down like over the course of action, because none of these songs are exactly good. So they are more like glimpses of hope with individual riffs and that old school death metal winking eye to the grind style, and then you're like, yeah, it's supposed to nail it, except it's not. So much like a lot of those material ones previously, those albums, this is very much like a demo in an EP format. My point here is, and this is something that I have said multiple times, do your demos first, do the pre-production, and don't just hastily go for the first album, or you end up doing one of these guys and bands here. And as to every story, there is a good twist and exception to the rule. This one is Obcasus from Finland, Omega Prophet debut album, self-financed. Now, guess when I was reading that, guess what my initial feeling was? Another demo level self-financed project. Luckily I was wrong. While this is nothing original, maybe the least original of this pile, well, at least in company with Mortar, this one is melodic black metal, but this is better done than any of those previous ones I just listed there. So while this is self-financed, originally released only on Bandcamp in digital format, and as you can see, there are no label stickers or logo symbols or whatever. This isn't even listed at the moment on Metal Archive, even though this has been out here for a year. 2021 release as all of these. So this one is melodic black metal. Kind of a fast tempo, and then you have the synthesizer. Nothing new here. Very, very 90s style of making. Reminding me a little bit here and there of Emperor of the Anthems era, but also some other bands, including but not limited to Algazan from Finland and all that stuff. So, melodic, fast-paced black metal. What could go wrong? A lot of things. What could go right? A lot of things. But where this band does it's right, it's like it has no weak points. Maybe it's not actually original, maybe it's not actually very much like extraordinary or outstanding in its style, but at least it has cut off the weak links. The vocals are pretty good and aggressive, the production is solid, very fitting, it's not like top notch, but it's good enough. And the melodies, they are very, very listenable and to some degree enjoyable. So they could be a lot better indeed, but like I said, there are no points or moments or songs where I feel like, okay, I'm gonna skip it. So it's actually very, very listenable and to some degree indeed enjoyable. Best of the pile, definitely. So to a little bit give you an idea, all of these 5 bands here are very much like either coming from solo project or self-financed demo phase stuff, or something in that direction. Nothing is too experienced. So, like, this is within the 5 going through less known bands with less experience at all. But we have a clear winner here. This time it's this Obcasus. I always pronounce it incorrectly. So, should you find some of these albums interesting, check out the links provided. If you don't like something, too bad. Not my problem. Alright, see you soon with more reviews coming away, and I hope you like some of them. Cheers.